The autumn leaves swirled outside the windows of Maplewood Diner in the quiet town of Evergreen Falls, painting the world in shades of crimson and gold as Harold Thompson made his way inside on a crisp October morning in 2025. At 92 years old, Harold moved with the deliberate slowness of a man who had carried the weight of history on his shoulders for far too long, his cane tapping rhythmically against the linoleum floor that had seen better days. The diner was his sanctuary, a place where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling pancakes offered a brief respite from the doctor's grim prognoses: a terminal lung cancer, months at best, a cruel echo of the smoke-filled trenches he had endured during World War II. Harold's eyes, once sharp and vigilant on the battlefields of Europe, now dimmed by age and illness, scanned the familiar faces: Martha the waitress with her kind smile, old Mr. Jenkins nursing his black coffee in the corner, and a scattering of locals chatting about the upcoming Harvest Festival. He settled into his usual booth by the window, the vinyl seat creaking under his slight frame, and ordered his standard breakfast: a scrambled eggs, toast, and a side of oatmeal to keep his strength up for what little time remained. As Martha poured his coffee, she chatted about the local elementary school's patriotism project, how the kids were learning about veterans and planning a surprise performance, but Harold only nodded politely, his mind drifting back to June 6, 1944, D-Day, when he had stormed Omaha Beach amid a hail of bullets and the screams of comrades falling like autumn leaves. He remembered the terror, the salt water stinging his eyes, the weight of his pack pulling him down into the surf, and the sheer willpower that propelled him forward for a cause greater than himself: for freedom, democracy, the American dream he had fought to preserve. Back then, he was just a boy from a Kansas farm, enlisting at 18 with dreams of adventure, but war had stripped away his innocence, leaving scars both visible and hidden, shrapnel in his leg that ached on cold days, nightmares of lost friends, and a purple heart pinned to his chest like a badge of survival. After the war, he had returned home to marry his sweetheart, Louise, build a family with 3 children and 7 grandchildren, and work as a mechanic until retirement, but Louise's passing 2 years ago from a sudden heart attack had left him adrift, questioning the purpose of his lingering days. Now, with the cancer spreading like an invading army, Harold felt the isolation keenly. His family scattered across states, too busy with their own lives to visit often, though they called weekly with promises of trips that never materialized. He stared out the window at the falling leaves, pondering his legacy. Would he be remembered beyond a faded obituary, or would his stories fade like the ink on old letters from the front lines? The diner began to fill with the morning rush, truck drivers grabbing quick bites, mothers with toddlers in tow, and then, unexpectedly, a yellow school bus pulled up outside, disgorging a lively group of 4th graders led by their enthusiastic teacher, Miss Elena Vargas, who had organized a field trip to honor local history. The children, bundled in jackets against the chill, chattered excitedly as they filed in, their faces flushed with the thrill of being out of class, and Miss Vargas explained to Martha that they were there for a special project to perform the national anthem for any veterans present, as a way to connect with the past. Harold's ears perked up at the mention, a faint smile crossing his lips. He hadn't expected company, let alone a tribute. The kids gathered near the counter, fidgeting with nervous energy, their small hands clutching printed lyrics as Miss Vargas pulled out her phone to play a backing track. The diner patrons quieted, sensing something special, and Harold straightened in his seat, his veteran cap perched on the table like a silent sentinel. As the first notes of the Star-Spangled Banner filled the air, the children's voices joined in, tentative at first but growing bolder, their high pitches carrying the words with a purity that cut through the mundane morning. "Oh, say can you see, by the dawn's early light." Harold's breath hitched. The anthem transported him back to flag-raising ceremonies in muddy camps, to victory parades in liberated towns, to the pride that had sustained him through hell. Tears welled unbidden, spilling over as memories flooded, the friends buried in foreign soil, the letters from Louise that kept hope alive. The moment he stepped off the ship in New York Harbor to cheers and confetti, the kids sang on, oblivious at first to the impact, but as heads turned toward Harold, their expressions shifted to a mix of concern and wonder. One girl, with braids and bright eyes, locked gazes with him, singing even louder as if for him alone. The diner transformed in that instant from a place of routine meals to a stage for raw emotion. A patron dabbing eyes with napkins, Martha pausing mid-pour with a hand over her heart, and even the cook peeking out from the kitchen with misty eyes. When the final brave words echoed o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, the room erupted in applause. But Harold sat still, his face a map of wrinkles etched deeper by tears, whispering a hoarse "God bless you" that carried across the hush. Miss Vargas approached gently, asking if he was all right, and Harold nodded, sharing briefly about his service, his voice cracking like old leather. The children crowded around, wide-eyed, offering hugs and questions. "Did you fight Nazis? Were you scared? Thank you for saving the world." One boy presented a handmade card with a drawn American flag, and Harold clutched it like a lifeline, the gesture piercing his solitude. Conversations flowed as strangers shared their own family veteran stories, turning the diner into a tapestry of shared history. Harold felt a warmth he hadn't known since Louise's embrace, a sense of purpose reignited in his waning days. As the bus prepared to leave, the kids waved from the windows, and Harold waved back, his heart lighter despite the pain in his chest. That afternoon, he called his son, urging a visit, and for the first time in months, sleep came without nightmares. The anthem's melody a lullaby of gratitude. The viral video of the moment, captured by a patron's phone, began circulating online, drawing comments of admiration and tears from viewers worldwide. But for Harold, it was more than fame, it was validation that his sacrifices mattered, echoed in the voices of the young. Days turned to weeks, and Harold returned to the diner often, now greeted like a celebrity, with kids from the class dropping by after school to share drawings and stories, forging bonds that mended his fractured spirit. Miss Vargas organized Hero Days, where Harold spoke to classes about the war, his tales of bravery and loss captivating young minds, inspiring them to value freedom. His family, moved by the video, finally visited, filling his modest home with laughter and long overdue hugs, as he shared artifacts from his service, a dog tag, a faded photo of his platoon, letters yellowed with time. The cancer progressed, treatments offering little relief, but these connections provided a balm stronger than medicine, reminding him that legacy isn't in battles won, but in lives touched. In quiet moments, Harold reflected on how a simple song had unraveled his isolation, weaving him back into the community fabric.
As winter's first snow dusted the streets of Evergreen Falls, blanketing the town in a serene white hush, Harold Thompson found himself reflecting on the unexpected turn his life had taken since that fateful morning in the diner, where children's voices had cracked open his guarded heart like a long-sealed vault. The viral video had exploded online, amassing millions of views by December 2025. With headlines proclaiming Kids Anthem honors dying WWII vet and tearful diner moment, sparking a wave of donations to veteran causes and invitations for Harold to speak at local events. Despite his declining health, chemo sessions leaving him weak, his once steady hands now shaking with fatigue, Harold embraced these opportunities, driven by a newfound mission to pass on the torch of remembrance before his flame flickered out. He attended a school assembly, wielded by his daughter who had flown in from California, where the same children performed again, this time dedicating the anthem to him personally, their voices stronger, more assured, as if infused with the gravity of his stories. Tears flowed freely, not just from Harold but from parents and teachers, the auditorium echoing with applause that felt like a standing ovation for a life well fought. Back home, surrounded by family who now visited regularly, Harold delved into his memoirs, dictating tales to his grandson who typed them on a laptop, preserving details of foxholes in the Ardennes, the bitter cold of the Battle of the Bulge, and the camaraderie that turned strangers into brothers. The anthem became his personal hymn, played softly on repeat during restless nights when pain kept sleep at bay. Its lyrics a reminder that bravery endures beyond the battlefield. Community support poured in, Neighbors shoveled his driveway. The diner named a booth after him with the plaque reading Harold's Hero Corner, and letters arrived daily from strangers moved by his story, sharing how it inspired them to reconnect with their own veteran relatives. One particularly touching note came from a young soldier in Afghanistan, thanking Harold for embodying the spirit that fueled their service. Closing with "Your tears reminded me why we fight." Harold's health ebbed like the tides he once crossed, hospital stays lengthening, but these gestures fortified his resolve, transforming impending loss into a celebration of legacy. In early January, the town organized a Veterans Tribute Night at the community center, with Harold as the guest of honor, frail but dignified in his pressed uniform, medals gleaming under the lights like stars in a night sky. The children, now rehearsed performers, took the stage once more, their rendition of the anthem soaring with emotion, each note a tribute to Harold's sacrifices. As they sang, flashbacks played in his mind, liberating concentration camps, the horror of skeletal survivors clutching at his uniform in gratitude, the day in Paris, dancing with locals amid joyous chaos, returning home to Louise's arms, vowing to build a peaceful life. The audience rose in ovation, but Harold remained seated, tears streaming as the kids presented him with a scrapbook filled with their drawings, photos from the diner, and messages of "Love you, you're our hero, thank you for freedom." Speeches followed, the mayor praising his valor, Miss Vargas crediting him for igniting patriotism in her students, his family sharing anecdotes of his quiet strength. That night, under a blanket of stars, Harold confided to his daughter that he felt complete. The anthem's echo mending wounds time couldn't heal. As spring approached, his condition worsened, confined to bed with hospice care, but visitors streamed in, children reading him stories, veterans sharing war tales, the community ensuring he never felt alone. In his final lucid moments, surrounded by loved ones in the softly lit room, Harold requested one last performance. The grandchildren, joined by phone with the school kids, sang the anthem over speaker, their voices a chorus of continuity. Harold's eyes closed peacefully, a faint smile on his lips, as the words "Home of the Brave" carried him away, from earthly pains to eternal rest. The town mourned with a memorial service that filled the church to overflowing, the anthem sung in unison, tears mingling with pride. Evergreen Falls erected a statue in the park, a veteran saluting Childrena, ensuring Harold's story endured. The viral video continued inspiring, schools adopting similar programs, families honoring elders, proving one emotional moment could ripple into widespread change. Years later, those children, now adults, recounted the tale to their offspring, the anthem a family tradition, Harold's legacy alive in every note. In the diner, his booth remained a pilgrimage site, where patrons reflected on connection's power, how honoring the dying could immortalize their spirit. Harold's journey, from solitary veteran to beloved icon, underscored that true heroism lies in vulnerability, in tears shed and hearts opened, forging bonds that transcend time.